everyone, and welcome to the EMDR Maven podcast. I'm Julie Miller. I'm a licensed professional counselor and an independent addiction counselor. I'm an EMDRIA-approved basic and advanced EMDR trainer, an EMDR Institute regional trainer, and an EMDRIA-approved consultant and certified therapist. I provide basic and advanced training through the EMDR Development Center. You can learn more about that at the website emdrdevelopment.com. This is season 2 of the EMDR Maven podcast. We're going to be discussing the use of EMDR therapy in the treatment of addictions, both substance and process addictions. We'll also have some other EMDR consultants who specialize in this area talking about their work. On the website, there are free courses and free trainings that you might find helpful. I host an EMDR no-fee study group on the last Wednesday of each month, except for December, from 12 noon to 12:50 p.m. Arizona time. This group is for anyone who's completed the EMDR basic training, and we can talk about addictions there as well. So send me an email, and I'll be glad to send you the link to the Zoom room that we use for that consultation group. Again, you can contact me at jmiller4721@gmail.com. Today on the EMDR Maven podcast, we're going to talk with Vincent Kelly. He's a licensed mental health counselor and an EMDRIA-approved consultant. He owns Affinity Counseling and Therapy Services, a private group practice located in Des Moines, Iowa. He's worked in the helping professions for over 20 years, beginning in the year 2000 as a youth counselor and supervisor at a group home for juvenile offenders. He transitioned into a position providing tracking and monitoring systems, in-home counseling, and skilled development service for community-based organizations. He established himself as a provider in correctional services, child and family services, and substance use treatment. He and 2 colleagues established Lifeline Resources and its sister organization, Lifeline Resources Youth Foundation, established to assist families and children involved in the penal system by providing reunification efforts, programs, and activities for youth, counseling, and substance use interventions. He began to work with clients involved in the 5th Judicial Court and the Polk County Drug Court on a regular basis in 2019. He developed a passion for EMDR therapy after participating in basic training in 2018 and using EMDR in his private practice. He's been trained in advanced uses of EMDR in treating substance use disorders and behavioral addictions. He earned his certification in EMDR therapy in 2022 and became an approved consultant in 2024. He's also participated in providing EMDR basic training in Ukraine and Australia. Welcome, Vince. I'm so glad you're here to talk about EMDR addictions and the population you specifically work with. So let's start with why you decided to get trained in EMDR.
Well, it was pretty interesting because a colleague of mine had initially been trained in EMDR. And it was actually before I even had gotten licensed that she would always talk about it. And, she'd talk about just how phenomenal utilizing the different modality was when, she was working with clients. She'd gone through a number of personal experiences with using EMDR herself. And she just talked about just how amazing it was. And so once I ended up getting my license and starting to practice, I was like, well, let's check it out. Let's check out her training and see what it looks like. And if it's something that, I would value or enjoy doing. And went through basic training, really had an awesome experience in that training. The individual that I was partnered with, we were both pretty committed. And so when it came down to actually practicing, we worked on some topics and targets that, really gave you the experience of what it would be like to actually reprocess through an event with professional, right?
Yeah,
And so
right.
by getting the opportunity to have a really good partner and us really getting the opportunity to experience what it would be like to be a patient that would go through the experience, it was really captivating to me. And it was something that I was like, I really need to learn a little bit more about this and really engage in learning how to utilize the modality, because I work with really tough clients and a population that experiences significant trauma and addiction and things like that. So that was kind of how I got into it.
So say something about the clients that you work with. What population do you tend to focus on?
Well, when I got into the social service and the healing world, I would say I worked with families that dealt with incarceration or, families that needed reunification services through the department. And a lot of times, there was generational traumas that those families experienced. And so you had a number of family members that had, addiction issues. You had a number of families that, parents were in and out of being incarcerated. Kids were abused, whether it were physically or sexually, just a lot of real traumatic situations that people would experience. And so I've always worked with that population since entering into the field 20 some years ago. So once I became licensed, because of all of the community-based work and reunification work that I did, I really embraced having that relationship with that community and utilizing the skills that I learned through graduate school and getting licensed and things of that nature to really try to help benefit the population and heal the population, right? Because a lot of times mental health was one of the primary issues to that trauma that, they kept experiencing and the cycles that they would get into. So just really wanting to work with people and show them ways where they could break some of those behavioral cycles through managing their mental health.
Yeah, nice. And of course, EMDR can be used regarding mental health of all kinds, depression, anxiety, trauma that's unresolved, and certainly it's under substance use. We know that, or addictions of any kind. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the protocols that you work with your clients, like standard protocol, probably for trauma, maybe some complex adaptations to that, but also substance use and addiction protocols. Could you just talk about what you tend to do with EMDR with your clients?
Sure. So yes, I do use the standard protocol quite a bit with clients that have a lot of anxiety, depression, things of that nature. Right. When it comes down to the clients that have the severe addiction issues, I use the detour protocols or Jim Knight's protocol to assist them with identifying triggers and some of those maladaptive behaviors and doing the disconnection between wanting the urge to want to use and kind of the behavior that's associated with triggering the use. You know what I mean?
So the Jim Knight protocol, would you say more about what you mean when you say the Jim Knight protocol?
Okay. So in Jim Knight protocol,
dysfunctional positive affect protocol, how do you use that with your clients? Again,
just really sitting down and assessing what sort of positive affects are associated with that use and that urge to use, and then walking through the protocol and helping to kind of detach those strong tendencies to want to get into that cyclical use, right? When they experience whatever trigger it is that's associated with that positive affect.
Exactly. And that's very similar in some ways. There's a couple of ways in which it's similar to the feeling state addiction protocol. Have you had any training in that, or do you use that at all?
Yes, I did have the opportunity to get trained in the feeling state protocol as well. That protocol is also really good and seems to have some great benefits when you have clients that are able to identify some of those positive feelings, right?
Right.
A lot of times you experience clients that really struggle with identifying any sort of positive connections to certain things. And so trying to get them to float back and engage some of those memories can be difficult from time to time. One of the other protocols that I've had some successes with is utilizing, again, portions of the detour protocols where we look at creating the positive treatment goals, right?
Yes.
And so I really enjoy kind of walking through that simulation with clients and helping them to maybe see what life could look like outside of that addictive space, right? Because a lot of times when people are those situations where addiction has been extremely prevalent throughout the years, they can't foresee anything outside of that. Right.
Yes. Right.
And everything is kind of about the here and now and all of the labels that were associated and placed on them because of the different traumatic experiences or
Yes.
the in and out of incarceration or engagement with law enforcement and, you know, family detachments, all those different things and all those different labels
Yeah.
that they wear every day bogs down their ability to really have a forethought and a vision, seeing themselves in the future or seeing themselves outside of being that addictive personality.
Very much so. So that section of the detour protocol, I've seen other people pull that out, and that's part of their resourcing for someone who has an addiction of any kind. You pull that out from the detour protocol and you use that as a resource building exercise with your clients, which is brilliant. I mean, in some ways, it's sort of like resource development and installation, you know, the RDI thing from Leeds and Corn. And it's a way to build a healthy, soberer self, a future self that is abstinent from, or either controlled use, harm reduction, abstinent, whatever it is, that they can begin to imagine themselves that way. Because you're absolutely right. That's one of the things that can be a real challenge for folks who've been bogged down in their addictions for so long or in incarceration. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it, that we can take some pieces and parts and mix those things up? I mean, obviously, when we get down to the treatment part of the protocol, then we want to use what's been researched and what we know works. But there is a piece here or a part there that we can integrate based on what that particular client needs. And I think that's really helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I was going through this particular training process with Hope Payson, one of the things that we always talked about was resourcing. I really feel like it's extremely important just for people and clients to have that ability to pull on some positive spaces, you know what I mean? And to be able to kind of connect with something outside of that negative thought process that wants to creep in each time you try to engage them or you try to activate them. I feel like if you have an extensive resourcing regimen that you utilize with clients, it's easier to keep them within their levels of tolerance as you're beginning to go back through and reprocess different targets, especially ones where there are just significant levels of disturbance. You know, if you could rate it past the 10, it would probably be a 25, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people can't stay in that window if they haven't been resourced.
Right, exactly. Or they get cravings and urges because with an addiction population, the only thing that they have done maybe recently to regulate their affect has been used in some way or act out in some way. So that's often something that comes up in sessions that I've had where they start having those cravings and urges to use because the brain just starts going down that rabbit hole that they know. So I'm
Absolutely.
having some significant disturbance. I'm just going to think about smoking or drinking or shopping or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, what kind of setting do you see clients in? Is it a private office, or do you see them in an agency, or what kind of setting are you in?
So I own a private group practice.
Okay.
And typically when I'm working with clients, we're just working in my office setting.
Okay.
Um,
So it's an outpatient setting where you see clients.
yep,
And
yep.
where do you get your clients from? Who sends clients to you?
I get clients from everywhere
Yeah.
just because of the different relationships that, I built throughout the years. But primarily when it comes down to individuals that have addictive personalities and behaviors, I get a lot of those clients from the 5th Judicial District. And I work very closely with the Polk County Drug Court team.
Nice.
I'm kind of considered one of their primary therapists that
Uh-huh.
they refer clients to,
Nice.
just because I've had such successes with working with that population
Nice.
and helping the individuals that are going through the drug court program navigate managing all of their emotions and triggers and urges as they phase through the program, right? And helping them to develop more positive, really just trying to help them develop some more like positive resources and tools to utilize when they're in those highly stressful situations, right? And not be triggered to just what I like to say, avoid. Right? How to stay in the moment and utilize that conscious mind and deactivate that subconscious mind that wants to pull them to those levels of avoidance, you know what I mean?
Right.
And destruction, thinking they're protecting themselves,
Right. Right.
But once they allow that to happen, then that's when, they go into that crazy cycle that I feel like speeds up, right? It starts out with a little mistake or a little trip or a small relapse. And, if they don't have some of those positive resources and tools and didn't have the ability to reprocess some scenarios, right, then they get highly activated whenever they experience some sort of triggering thought or emotion, right? And it doesn't give them that ability to take that breath or to take that step back and to slow down that thought process, right? And do a analysis of what will be a healthier alternative or a healthier decision. And so really use EMDR throughout that phase process to just help clients manage and reprocess and deal with all of the stimulus that they're receiving while they're in that hyperactive state. So
Right. And so much of the triggers that people have for using or that create urges to use or cravings are related to their traumas. And then there's the extra step in the folks that you're working with who have those addictions. They also have the legal system that they're dealing with. So what are some of the challenges that EMDR helps with regarding those legal issues when they're involved in drug court?
So a lot of times, especially when you think about drug court, most people aren't aware of what that process looks like. And so it's highly intensive, and the clients have to meet with their probation officer on a weekly basis. They have to drop on a weekly basis. It's mandatory for them to maintain a job, to have a sponsor, to attend meetings every other day, to go to therapy. If they meet the level of care where they need outpatient treatment, then they have to do outpatient treatment. And so the demand is really, really high, and it can be highly stressful and very activating for clients because a number of them have not had that sort of structure in their world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just trying to balance the requirements, understanding that there's a consequence if, they're not able to fulfill whatever obligation that they have for them, that tends to keep them in this highly stressful, triggering type of situation.
Right.
And so I utilize a lot of the EMDR protocols and advanced protocols and standard protocols to just kind of desensitize some of those scenarios for them.
Yes.
I also use a lot of resourcing, right? Because for them, they can somewhat catastrophize things, right? Mm-hmm. Not recognizing that we're all imperfect and we're all going to make mistakes here and there. But for them, because again, a lot of the core negative beliefs that really get them into that triggered state where they want to use is associated with mistakes and labels that get placed on them because of minor mistakes. You know what I mean? Then they tend to get highly activated and want to hop into that cyclical process of using to manage or cover up or mask how they're feeling or avoid whatever sort of situation or consequence that might be present. So really just trying to get them to see that you don't have to catastrophize, for one. And if you are attentive and self-reflective, you'll recognize that throughout the day, there's more winning than there is losing, right? I do a lot of resourcing around gratitude, right? And having clients tap in their wins each day, right?
Nice.
Whether they do an inventory of it and go back and reflect and think about the body sensations that they feel and what sort of mindset that put them in when they heard something positive, and just lightly tap those things in each day helps, right? To really kind of slow down that thought process of, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I'm such a terrible person and a piece of, what, and all the other things that they tend to gravitate towards and go down those rabbit holes, right? It kind of assists with combating that quite a bit and getting them to think, okay, wait a second, like, yeah, that was a mistake, but it wasn't horrible. And I did do this, and this right. You know what I mean? So just trying to create some different associations throughout the day that help them to be able to better manage without catastrophizing.
Right. Yeah. So just learning those skills that are going to keep them a little bit more in the present and not have to go down the rabbit holes that lead them someplace that's going to create disturbance and then feed into that cycle. So have you had the experience, since you're in an outpatient setting, I'm guessing you've had the experience of people coming in intoxicated?
I have.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, what do you do when someone comes in intoxicated? Do you do EMDR with them? Do you have boundaries you set with your clients? How do you handle that?
It really depends on the level of intoxication. So if they're really incoherent, we may just sit and talk through what were some of the things that triggered them to get to that space, right? And why did they feel like they needed to use prior to coming to therapy? And what motivated them to come to therapy under the influence, right?
Anyway, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something that obviously makes them feel comfortable about the space if they wanted to enter in that way. So just talking about kind of what that looks like, why they felt, one, the comfort to come, and two, what possessed them to feel like they needed the additional boost or wanting to avoid when they're coming, right? Mm-hmm. I noticed that it happens if they feel like we're going to dive into a topic that is a little bit more difficult for them to manage. I try to create a space where it gives them the opportunity to feel like they have some control and they're included in the process of how fast we go, fast or slow that we go, and what things are kind of off the table or off limits temporarily, right? Until they feel like they have enough capacity or courage to really walk through some of those scenarios. You know what I mean? So really just trying to help them understand that there's something healthier for them to do outside of coming in and being under the influence. And then also just kind of identifying the motivating factors behind why they did it, right? So that way, the next time that they come in, when they're not intoxicated, we can maybe work through that or utilize one of the protocols to reprocess that event. So
Right.
just try to take some different approaches, not hop on the phone and call their PO and things like that, because somebody's already tracking that. Somebody's already watching that with a number of the clients that I see. And so if they've come to me intoxicated, they're going to be around somebody within their treatment facility or sober living house or, probation officer that's going to manage the disciplinary aspect of that. And so I don't try to condemn them. I try to figure out ways to support them and help them support themselves and build themselves through the mistake that was made.
Right. So you don't have to be the enforcer.
No.
You can just support them. What kind of consultation do you offer EMDR people? If somebody wanted to do consultation with you because they work with folks in a drug court somewhere, mm-hmm. How would they get in touch with you? How might you be able to help them?
Well, you could find me on EMDR's website. I believe I'm still listed on their website as.
If you're a member, you're still listed. Yeah.
As a consultant. So I can be found via EMDR. I can also be found through Psychology Today. Nice. I do offer individual case consultation if folks are looking to just ask questions about difficult cases or strategize some different ways to integrate some of the protocols into a patient experience. I'm willing to walk through things like that with folks.
Nice.
I do have a couple of individuals that I'm helping through the certification process.
Nice.
And so I do offer some consultation to help individuals through the certification process.
Great.
And
great. So you'd be great to help somebody through the certification process who also has folks that they work with. They're also dealing with addiction issues or issues with the legal system. That would be a great fit probably for you.
When you have folks that are involved with the legal system and they're mandated to come see you, there's already friction within the therapeutic relationship from the get-go, right? And so how do you work to decrease those levels of friction, right? And build the environment that allows them to feel safe and supported. Rapport building is really, really important because the levels of trust are pretty minute,
right?
Right, the first time that they walk through the door.
Right.
And so the more trust that you can build with them, the easier it is to get them to become more vulnerable. Because vulnerability is a very rough thing for a lot of those individuals. Uh-huh. And in order to really assist and help them process through some of these significant events that really hinder them, you have to have that space where they feel safe, they feel like there's certain levels of trust there, and they can be more vulnerable and open. Also, if you have time, I know like in some of the facilities, one of the issues that you run up against is time, right? And so if you're trying to utilize the protocols and reprocess people, you have to move at a faster pace. But in an outpatient setting, take your time, because the last thing that you want to happen, which has happened with a number of my clients and has created a fear for some of them to utilize EMDR, is that they've gone and seen other therapists and they didn't have that rapport built to the point where there was that safe feeling and true buy-in, and they went to reprocess and the client wasn't ready, and didn't stay in those windows of tolerance. And so it was a negative experience for them and a very triggering experience for them. Right. And so to take your time and also allow the client to have say in how things work and what they feel ready and comfortable to process through versus you guiding the ship. You know what I mean? Yes. Allow them to be vested in their process and their program,
Exactly.
So
that's good advice for any population. Any client that we have, that is great advice for that. Thank you very much for your time. Very grateful for your being willing to share with folks who like to listen to this information about EMDR, but also specifically about addiction. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. Thanks again to Vince Kelly for taking the time to talk with us about his work with EMDR and drug court participants. Please feel free to contact him through the emdria.org website, where you will find him under Find a Therapist. Again, thanks so much for listening, and stay with us for next time. We'll have more approved consultants who are talking about their work with EMDR and addictions. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.